flowers on stage.
Yeah, so Zach, starting this off, I'd love for you to talk to me about like what you feel is most important when it comes to being a great collaborator.
Oh, great question. Um, Man, I think one of the biggest things is just for me is listening. I think listening would probably be one of the best ways to be a really great to actually to be a great collaborator in many different ways. If you're doing music, if you're doing art, in a relationship, collaboration, intimate relationships, as well as friendships and all that. So I mean, collaboration, um, I think it takes on so many different realms, and there has to be um, a cohesion. And if and with music, it's such collaborating with music, obviously, which is my what I do the most in collaboration. Um, Music is a conversation. And so if you're not listening and you're just, let's say, proverbial just talking, um, there's not much collaboration there. So listening I would say that's one of the biggest ones for me.
Mm. Yeah, and can you talk to me about like listening not just to respond, but like listening to truly understand?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I think that there's this kind of integration piece, right? So it's listening in the idea that you are not waiting for what's next, but you're letting it land, you know? Um, and sometimes less is more. Sometimes there doesn't even need to be a response. Sometimes um, it's, yeah, I mean, I find myself sometimes if somebody's if somebody's playing their instrument and they're doing, you know, they're having a moment, sometimes you feel this kind of reaction, right? And there's such a different energy behind reaction and response. I love that you said, you're not waiting to respond or react or any of that. So it's kind of letting it land, um, and then seeing kind of how does it, and I prefaced this before, but how does it integrate, and how do I want to um, take that communication and take that energy and then let it kind of integrate into me and let my authentic self come through in a way that is me, you know,
Mm.
so that I can be the best version of myself in that way, and I think that's pretty it's pretty potent. And when we get wiser, when we get older, and it's like we kind of, more of that, when you're young and you're just starting to play, um, and then when you get older and there's so much more experiences that you have that you can apply to a lot of those situations. So I think that that's just a really cool one. That kind of sparked me when you asked the question, was just really listening. Um,
Yeah.
it's pretty huge, and how that application goes in so many versions of my life, in so many different ways, with parenting, to being a partner, to music, to honestly just like the way that I surf. So like the way that I kind of meet myself in the ocean, or all of my activities that I do, and it's like that whole process, the way that I show up in that way, um, has definitely got more and more refined through. I would just say kind of like the less is more. Um, you know,
Yeah.
the act, yeah, the creative act in that way of slowing down and just listening, but all as well, just kind of, presence.
Yeah, and I love how you said cohesion. Like everything you do, being in a band, being in relationships, it all comes down to like coming together. And yeah, one element, we're here and we can talk, like you said, but that doesn't necessarily mean cohesion.
Well said.
I love how you just like started this off with like the right kind of listening.
Yeah. And it's interesting because we were just actually in Colorado, and I was kind of talking about gratitude, and I was kind of communicating to the crowd like just the gratitude that the band has for, I mean, we had like 5 sold out shows in Colorado, and it was like, it just felt like the crowd was like almost hanging on every note. All the shows were different, and it was this thing, and I made this statement, and I like heard it back, and I was like, I don't it, it was interesting how it came out, but I said, we are all just so grateful and in gratitude to you guys. And I said this, and I was like, I'm saying this, and I hope you guys hear it, but I more than I hope that you hear it, I hope that you feel it. Because I think that, we can say I love you to your partner, you can say, oh, great job, but like there is this level of how it lands, and the connectedness and the authenticity and the realness of someone feeling that. Obviously, this, actions speak louder than words in that way, but it's kind of cliche, but it is that realness that it's more of that, it's a more of a feeling, right, that you can't necessarily put your hand on. It's like, man, I feel there's some, you know I feel this, I
Mm,
feel it. And so when we have those moments, that's what I live for. I mean, really, those moments
mm,
of really leaning into, um it's sometimes overwhelming, it's just the feeling of that feeling of love, the feeling of just an emotion that is, you know through music or vibration or whatever it is. It's like that's where that's connected to me. That's when I feel most connected to source.
mm. I love that. How do you feel like all the time you've spent on stage in these like peak musical moments and then in the trenches, like all the rough logistics and creative pursuit that leads into those moments? Like how do you feel all of that has like shaped you as a person?
All of kind of like the other moments, like, what you said, the trenches, or the process, really enjoying the process, um and then as well the way that it kind of like translates when you're in that moment and you're in front of thousands of people and you're in this peak moment. It's, you know I there's a level that, like, I don't want to say I separate it, but I don't try to um have this thing where like it's worth it, or um it's more just the act. I'll give you an example. Like, for me, I have a lot of practices in my life that help me in the trenches, and then help me, balance from the trenches. The the dichotomy of those two, because they're very vastly different, right? Of when you're in it, and then when you're like having this, aha moment. Um, you know, One of the practices that I have is I'm in cold water. I do cold therapy, cold plunging. I do sauna, cold plunging. And I say recently, I've done a lot of different other, I've done, all kinds of different meditations. I've done plant medicine. There's all kinds of things that I've tried and practiced, and all of these things. But I kind of go back to this feeling that hot and cold, because they're incredibly uncomfortable. And so there, the trenches and non the trenches. So like if I'm in a sauna for 20 minutes and it's 202 degrees, the way that I regulate that feeling because it's like you feel good, it's warm in there, but then it reaches, you're in the trenches, you're in the process. You're, should I be in the hot? You know, I'm really hot, I'm sweating, I need to get out of here. Like all of these things, it's like you're kind of, it's like fight or flight, right? And then I get into the cold plunge and it's freezing. It's absolutely horrible. Um, but what I do when I'm in the cold plunge is I can at this point, because it's been a practice for 5 years now, I have a sauna and a cold plunge in my backyard, and my cold plunge is between 34 and 38 degrees. And when I get into the cold, um, not that I'm stiff, but I start here and then I can go like 10 layers of releasing for 3 minutes in that water. I can go deeper. I can go deeper. I can go deeper, and finding presence and finding this. This is long-winded, sorry, but I'm trying to kind of bridge it all
Yeah, I
together
love
of
it.
the okay, of the trenches and then like the peak experience. And it's kind of like when I'm in there, I find this unbelievable pain, which is kind of misery. It's really cold. My feet are hurting. They're freezing. You know, but I like find this peace that after I keep going deeper, I keep breathing, I can keep going deep. I'm like here, here, here. And I mean, it's not just 3 levels, it's like 10 levels that I'm in full relaxation mode, full relaxation. And it's like 3 minutes. Once 3 minutes hits, I could go another 3 minutes. But the first 45 seconds, I'm like, get me the fuck out of here. Like, get me out of here. Like, I can't even be in here. But once I regulate and get into that, I literally could probably stay in the water for another 6 minutes. So it's kind of like, and then when I get out of the water, it is that peak. So to sum all this up, for me, that analogy or that practice relates to those kind of in the trenches, in the music peak experiences, where to me, like hot cold, they're very, like, to dissect it, they're incredibly different, but they're incredibly similar as well. So
Yeah.
that's what my point is just getting to this realm of that, like, those, there's not so much difference in them, I guess, for
Mhm.
me, in the way that I view it, if I can be present in both of them.
Yeah. Yes. Like when I think of amazing improvisational music, there's this, like you said, listening, and then there's this allowing it to actually breathe. And, with saunas, cold plunge, it's like this massive pressure, and you're getting to this point where under all of this horrible cold, you can still allow yourself to breathe, kind of thing.
Absolutely. I mean, I love that you said allow. I mean, that's been um a cornerstone in my vocabulary recently, with just like, instead of pushing, you know, pushing, I need to do this, I have to do this, or this is on my schedule, or I have, it's like, rather than the push, who wants to push a sled uphill? You know what I'm saying? It's like, so it's like this kind of just, it's a little kind of refinement of how we, like you said before, responding rather than reacting. And it's kind of like that allowing is equally a really potent piece to how once again, for presence, just to kind of, um if I try to do a really cool drum fill, if I'm playing drums and I'm in the moment and I'm like, oh, I learned this thing and I'm going to do this like right, left, right, and I'm gonna integrate it, I will fuck it up 100%. If I'm like, whatever is going to happen, and I practice this fill, what happens is it integrates what I've been practicing, but there's like a spin on it because it's effortless. You know, so
Mhm.
those are my, like, that's instant feedback. That's instant, not like gratification, but it's just like it's actually instant for me in those moments to allow and be like, oh, look at the direct feedback that's happening. If Because I mean, there's more times in the night that I'll try to do something and I'm like, that didn't work. And then I'll be in my head, and then if I just like let go and I allow, those are the most magical nights I've ever had. So it's like, I love that. I mean, I love that
Mhm.
so much.
Heck yeah, yeah. For my next question, like, so being in a touring band, like y'all hang your hats on what you make. Like, before we started recording, we were talking about Human Dream, new album. Yeah, everyone out there listening, STS9 came out with Human Dream this past fall. We got a link in the description there where you can check that out. But my question for you, Zach, is like, how do you balance like hanging your hat on your performance on your album and really almost like this concept of perfectionism where you take a lot of pride in the details versus like this energy of allowing and letting go? Like what's your best advice for balancing those two?
Oh my gosh, it's so hard. I mean, it could be an infinite loop. You never know. You know what I mean? Like it could be, I mean, you could, we could fiddle till, and it would never be done. You know what I mean? That's what's kind of neat about a live performance, because you have this like, you have a show, you have to perform the show, and then it's done. And then you either go to the next city or you're done or whatever it is. But, creating in the studio, there's a level of like, unless you give yourself a finite time, but like, it could be an infinite loop of never endingness. And I think that we've always kind of self-produced and always had that kind of struggle, with things taking longer than maybe they should. But it also like with even saying that, it always like seems to be like divine when it comes out, right? So it's like it's such an interesting mind fuckery, to be
Like a
honest with you.
paradox.
It's a
Yeah.
complete paradox. Yeah, absolutely. Well said. So it's always it's a con- it's a constant struggle, you know. I don't know if I have much advice to give anyone. Um, I think, you know, a huge piece is trusting the process, really. And the process is the process. um this day and age, a lot of people want instant gratification. um and I think that there's a level that like anything in my journey that like, anything worth a shit, just it takes presence, it takes energy, and it takes time, and it takes um preparation, and it takes so much focus. Within that, it also takes space, because when we let it have space, then there's room for more, so yeah, I mean, I guess the trust the process. Trust the process. It's once again, I use these kind of cliches, but it's like it's really about the journey, not the destination. So it's like the process is that journey, and the unfolding of the magic of it's like it's not getting out of the cold plunge, it's being in the cold plunge, for my analogy, but like it's being, or the metaphor, being in the cold plunge. It's about being in it, you know
Mhm. And like zooming out, thinking about like the whole arc of the process, even more deeply, like how did Zach come to be and how does his heart know how to beat? And music just exists as a concept and it comes out of you. It's almost like thinking about the process, none of this stuff actually originates from like Zach. Like Zach is a part of this much longer arc of whatever you believe in, whoever you are out there, and like trusting in that, like the same way you have breakfast this morning and you come up with whatever you want to say on this interview is the same way whatever will be as far as your music is going to be. So for me, it's like, yeah, no matter how much I toil, any kind of toiling won't make it necessarily better. It's like trusting the longer arc that I'm kind of referring to. That's kind of how I see it.
Love that. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we there's a level that we are just kind of the catalyst, right? I mean, we're kind of creating something from nothing. So it's just like, if we can be open, open enough and listen and like channel that to a level. I mean, that's kind of what we're doing. I mean, artists who just have, or painting, or musicians that are just playing. It's like we have this craft that we work on constantly, and then we collaborate or we don't collaborate, but like it's coming. There's a level that like the creativity, and we all have it. It's our natural birthright. Like we were born creative. We were born coloring outside of the lines. We were born, you know, just viewing the world as this magical place. And then like as we get older, just to say it, like we were putting and we're put into these boxes and more smaller, tiny boxes to kind of no, do this, you have to do this, you have to do this to get to here and all that. But our natural birthright is to be creative, you know? And I think that so many people, um, in my experience, I'm actually working on a book. I'm writing a book with a friend of mine about creativity, and we hold a creative development retreat about finding the creator within it. Like so many people, if they're not a visual artist, a cook, or a musician, or a fashion design, like they don't think that they're creative. Yet, if they get up on the left side of the bed or the right side of the bed, we have choices here and how we want to like, how do you want to get out of the bed? You know, like the magic and the mundane of all these moments of each moment and how we meet those moments, then the way that I mean, the world is our oyster in this idea of how we meet each moment and how we embrace creativity and the creative act of how we show up for ourselves. And it's such an opportunity, you know. It really is such a perspective, you know, just this micro perspective switch or a micro kind of alignment, you know, of where we're showing. And it's like ultimately it's that uninterrupted self that that you know, we don't all these interruptions or whatever. And it's like, but when the uninterrupted self is truly, in my personal opinion, when the uninterrupted self is aligned and whatever, it's there's magic in every morsel of existence. So
Yeah, and what you were just saying about getting out of bed like that, like it reminds me of the analogy at the beginning of like listening and like letting it land and then like allowing yourself to respond how you really would respond as opposed to like an autopilot reaction.
well said.
And like how we navigate through the world, it is a lot of these habitual autopilot, get in my box, go to this other box, and not really let this situation of our lives land and really design how we want to kind of have our day. Like, and I think that's another reason groups like STS9 mean so much to people like me, like your fans. Like, it's like that constant reminder of like, wow, like life is so much more than like me going from one little box to another and checking whatever I do at work. Like, yeah, it's an awesome thing to like keep this message so bold.
Yeah, it's been kind of a thread we've been pulling on the whole kind of existence of the band. And it obviously, you know, we get, you know, it morphs and it changes and we're inspired by new different things and new things are happening, but it is this kind of um thread that has been through our whole kind of existence and our lineage, you know.
Given the chance, what do you think like the future you would say to you today?
The future me say to myself.
Mhm.
Great question. I mean, I'll kind of iterate what I said. I mean, the to enjoy the process. Enjoy the process. I mean it. I mean, all like the universe, I think, has so much magic that we are so what you just, you know, I'll kind of bounce off what you said is that like, you know, we're going from box to box that like there is this autopilot to where there's so many missed opportunities, like, you know, a connection with someone at the coffee shop or, you know, in an Uber. Um, I just had a connection because I was open um in the venue and I connected with this one guy and we started pulling on this kind of string of where he came from, where I came from, and we've known not that we've known each other, but we've crossed paths since like 19 since I was like 16 years old, but I've never met him. because he was in from DC, but he went to Alabama, and he saw us when we were at this venue, and he brought sound for us for this one show, and it's like, holy shit. Like, but I was talking to my front of house guy, and he was there, and I just went over to him, and I'm like, hey, I'm Zach from STS9. He's like, oh, hey, I'm Mike. So it was just like the openness, I think, for human connection, so the process, and I think, is just such a magic in the mundane, man. There's so much magic in the simplistic connection of humans, and community, and I think just connection is just, not that it's lost. I don't want to be like this Debbie Downer, but like, a lot of people are on their phones. I'm, um, I think we're all guilty of it, but it's like that human connection is it's a potent thing. It's a potent thing to where you never know. I guess you never know in so many different realms, I guess.
Yeah.
My brain's working overtime. I'm not, I could talk for like hours about it, but like I'm trying to kind of condense, like that's what feels right to me, like this process and the magic and the mundane. I would tell my younger self to not wait so long to kind of find this practice, I guess.
Yeah, and like life is short. You got to smell the roses, all the
Dude,
roses.
absolutely, man. I mean, people have been saying this shit for years, for decades, I think we're all still just, we're trying, you know.
Hmm.
We're trying to show up for our best uninterrupted selves, I really, I do. I think that it's tough. I mean,
I'd love to hear you talk about what you think it is about the concept of improvisational live music in its best forms that can cause for that to heal people.
to heal people. Ooh, well, I don't know if I have any insight on to heal people, but I do have, you know, it really goes back improvisation, the way that we, especially STS9, and why I love my fellow musicians in this band, and the communication and how we get to play music, and improvisation comes up in our music with structure within form, and then we leave these spacious realms for creativity and for openness and for, um that creativity and the ideas for us to kind of like communicate and listen, so yeah, it's like that's just, going back to even what you asked me, like, collaboration, you know coll improvisation music with musicians, is one of the just in it's one of the coolest collaborations, because you don't know where it's going, you don't know what's coming next, but you're having this conversation, and you're not necessarily waiting to speak or waiting for this moment. It is this cohesion that is, you're moving as one, yet everybody's talking. It's like we're talking at the same time, but it's like there's so much harmony.
Yeah.
Um, and it's yeah, I was going to say, it's just like I'm so blessed and grateful for the opportunity to be able to, you know to share that with four other humans, because it's really, really fun, and it's really magical and special, and it's what we have. I don't think any of us take it for granted, of especially, when you get to know someone in that way, and watch their growth, as an artist, as a human on planet Earth in this third dimensional reality, and like, and to witness it, and to be able to like elevate to that, and with that, and all of that, and then integrate it, and then, my uninterrupted self is seen, and their uninterrupted self is seen, and like we're all showing up, and we're all seen, and we're all like, I don't know, it's a harmony, and it's just we get to play, and it's really, really special and fun.
Aside from like the concept of like healing whatever people have going on with them, maybe just like that like transformative emotional experience someone can have. Like, what do you think it is that can cause for that?
Well, I mean, I think it's different for everyone.
Hmm.
But I do think it goes back to the like they feel something. And it's whether it's like they can close their eyes and and Hunter is maybe a full channel and he's hitting these notes and this vibration that is resonating. We all kind of have a different vibration, and maybe that resonance is like for that particular person is just hitting them. And maybe I'm playing something that I'm channeling something that's coming through, and the rhythm is taking them to this tribal ancient part of themselves that they're like healing, or that they didn't know that they had, and then that they're able to be a channel, and it's coming through, and they're being their uninterrupted self, and then it's like this kind of chain reaction, because I say as well that like it is not just us, you know we're up there, but it is a co-creation. It is a full-on co-creation with the crowd, with the venue, with everybody that is giving and taking, not taking, but just it's this energy that is flowing and reciprocal and coming back and symbiotic, that it's like, I don't know, I think it's beyond me. I think it feels like it's beyond others as well, that like I don't know if we can necessarily put our finger on it, but what we do know is that we feel something. And when we feel that, there's a resonance, and there could be a dissonance. I don't like that, or I do like that. But I think once again, they're both equal. They play the light. You can't have light without dark. You can't have hot without cold. It's like, so it's this equal play that I think what it comes down to too is that there's something that hits for me, something that hits for the crowd, our bandmates, and all of that. That's like it's inspiration, hope, you
Yeah.
know, space for more, what they thought, how much they could love or not love, or whatever it is. I mean, this is me just shooting from the hip. Like I don't know. I mean, but that's kind of um, a little bit of my experience too, because I get inspired through that, and then it's like I'm having a similar experience where I'm not just acting and there's no anything. You know what I mean? It's not like, hey, look at me, look what I just did, look what we just did for you. It's, for the crowd or for whatever. It is this co-creation. So we're equally, you know, we make magic when the five of us are just playing music, absolutely. But we are, when we co-create with the audience and the crowd, there's so much more that that's beyond anything that the five of us could create. So
It's like all the selves, all it's like everyone becoming their uninterrupted self. Like I like how you use that phrase very poignantly.
yeah, it's deep for me. It's deep for me personally. Uninterrupted self. I mean, that's me and my wife. My wife has kind of turned me on to that term, and really, it didn't land, but then really sitting with it and understanding what that represents. It's not like this unfiltered, this is me, fuck you, or, this is who I am. It has nothing to do with that. This uninterrupted self is that like that depth, that kind of, or this is my perspective of it, it's that kind of like that true authenticity that that is that is me, and how I show up to the world. And I don't know, when that just resonates with me deeply, in such a loving, pure way. And sometimes it's very hard, because sometimes it's my representative rather than my uninterrupted self. It's maybe
Mhm.
this is who I think I should be, or maybe, my identity, or I don't know, so it's like to kind of have that practice of what that authentic what that true authentic self is it's to me, I'm still refining, and um it's revealing itself every day, which is really beautiful. Like, who am I? What a crazy concept, right?
It's like we
For me.
were who we were at day zero, and then our
Yeah,
whole lives we've just been habitually interrupting that.
well said. Yeah, yeah, man.
I'd love
It's
to hear
deep.
like about a belief you've held for a long time that maybe nowadays you see completely differently.
Oh, dude, you just hit a nerve. You struck a chord. So belief to me is one of the strongest charged words in our existence. I don't know what I believe, man. I genuinely have a lot of ideas about a lot of different things. Um, so belief is one of those words that, you know, I don't have a lot of conviction in that because of the uninterrupted self, because of the boxes, because of all of those things. To me, when you say that I believe this, you're there's a box.
Mhm.
For me, like I said, this is my personal journey. This is my personal experience. So and from my self journey and my past and all of those things of understanding and what people told me that they believed, um, in so many different ways. If it's about music, if it's about art, I believe this, or I believe this about religion, or I believe this about our government, or whatever. I just felt, me personally, there's a dissonance when I feel that, because it's like, well, I don't know. Yeah, that's just my perspective. So I just have a lot of ideas in the way that I'm I see the dichotomy in the perspective. Um, that's just me. So that's
I
deep
think
for
that's
me.
that's a good point though. Like so many people's like quote unquote beliefs about who they think they are, whatever, is a lot of limiting belief systems.
You said it.
Mhm.
Absolutely, 100%, man. Yeah. And so like yeah, I'm working through it as well, because it is like it's like, um yeah, it's deep. It's deep. It's deep for me in so many different realms. I'm sure it's deep for a lot of people when they, you know, what their parents said that they believed, or, their partner believed, or, you know, I think religion is a big one, or the government's a big one. It's just like, no, I believe this. And it's just like, oh, it's just so limiting. Like you just said, it's very limiting. But there's no judgment. There's no um disrespect or anything. It's just the way that like, once again, the resonance that it is with me, you know. I have no idea. I have no idea what happens, or what's going to happen tomorrow, or like what happens when you die, or it's like, so it's like to believe that, like, these things, or this is the way that it is, and this is the only way. And it's like, God, really? I'm just kind of like, really? I don't know. I don't know if that's the only way. I don't know. Um, there's so many different, permutations and perspectives.
Totally. Well, to be a little facetious, what do you believe is most important when it comes to being a great leader?
Uh, Man, thanks for going in on like some really thought-provoking questions.
Thank you for joining me, man. I love how you're taking these in stride.
Cool. As I'm kind of processing the question, there's a lot coming through, and the way that, like, there's a lot of downloads happening, but the way that um I'm trying to kind of like focus and find, like, what is that, where's the North Star for that. But there's so many levels and layers to to that for me. A lot of things that are coming up is just kind of like I wasn't that like leader. I was just kind of thinking of like showing up like as a parent. Um, yeah, and so like that's what kind of came through, and it's just kind of like, you know, someone asked me, a really dear friend of mine, who I've done I did a breathwork practitioner. I'm a somatic breathwork practitioner, and I did my study with him. And he asked me like, "What do you, when your daughter's older, what would you want her to think about, her dad and how, he showed up?" Um, and I had to kind of sit here like this, and I was like, "Whoa, what a great question!" And I want my daughter to feel safe. I want her to feel supported. And I think that if you kind of put that over to like um in like a leader kind of aspect, I think that that is a huge piece. If you are leading, that the people that you are leading, or that you are, however that looks, is that they feel safe and supported in a way that they can show up in the best way that they can to help either you lead or help collaborate or help in whatever way. Um, instilling fear, or, you're the leader or this or that and the other, I don't think that there leaves much room for collaboration or cohesion or whatever. So, um, I think that I don't, you know, I don't know if that's my final answer, but like relating it to that of what kind of came through for me is that feels one thing that's definitely potent for me. Um, that like that they feel, and that, I mean, and that's why I said there's so many levels and layers, because if we start going to like them feeling safe and them feeling supported, and then, I mean, we could go down the line of how that, for every action there's a reaction, and then if they feel safe, then they feel that they can show up, and if they feel supported, then their confidence is good so that they can whatever, it's like all of these
Yeah.
moments then kind of compound on themselves to where it's like you're getting, it's not, you're detached from the outcome, obviously, but there's a realm that like you are, um you know the idea is that you're in this win-win situation. Said, it's like, yeah, I mean, if you feel that support and you feel that, then like it's like the best version of yourself, right? It's like in art, in creativity, and whatever that is.
This is Flowers on Stage.